So quick look at our transactions tab on the left-hand side. This is going to be the bank transactions. So we'll talk about bank feeds later, but just remember that if you have everything electronic, then what's going to happen is if you pull the information in from the bank feeds, then you're going to see the decrease amount of the money, and then you're going to see in the detail, the description will possibly give you who you paid, which will be something like Verizon. If it was a telephone company, it would be the rental company, whoever that is, if you're paying the rental bill, and so on and so forth. And that information then can be typically used to know which expense account you should point it to: telephone, rent expense, utilities, and so on and so forth. That would be the general idea. Now remember that if you actually write a check, what's the problem here? The checks will still clear over here, but the date is going to be way later. It's not going to be close to the date that you wrote the check, and it might not have the detail for the transaction type because it wasn't an electronic transfer. So you might have to look at the actual canceled check if you wanted to wait till it clears the bank to record the item from the bank feeds. So that means that if you're doing the checks with a checkbook, whether you're handwriting the check or actually printing the checks from QuickBooks, you basically want to put them in the system when you create the check, and then use the bank feeds to reconcile. So you'll see it on the bank feeds, but instead of the bank feed recording the transaction, it's just going to reconcile the transaction so that it'll be part of your bank reconciliation process. Remember, either way you do it, the bank reconciliation is really important. Although, if you have just simply constructed your books from the bank, then the bank reconciliation is going to be very easy because it's going to tie out exactly to what the bank statement says because you built your bank statement from the books, but you still want to do it because you want to make sure that you didn't double enter something or not enter something. If, however, you enter something on your side because either you have bills, you have to deal with sales tax, you have to deal with inventory, or you have to deal with checks, then you're going to have at least part of the transactions over here that you already entered. They're still going to integrate the bank feeds, but the bank feeds will simply verify the transactions that you have entered, which is actually a more full service bookkeeping and accounting system, giving you a higher level of internal controls. So next time we'll go into the vendor center over here, which is the expenses tab, and we'll talk about how we track these items in this center, noting that this center is not as important if we're not tracking the accounts payable. If we are tracking accounts payable, then you're going to spend a lot of time in here, especially if you're in the accounting department working in accounts payable. You're going to be in here all the time dealing with bills, right? Tracking the bills and trying to pay them as late as possible.